Those upper terraces stopped belonging to him years ago.
Then why are his survey stakes still buried up there? He abandoned those terraces and everybody knows it!
I stopped climbing them after my knees gave out.
I didn't expect clearing dead weeds along a collapsing terraced hillside would uncover another ugly property dispute involving an elderly homeowner, Breakpoint Fives, until I started cutting through the dry overgrowth between the old retaining walls and noticed several metal survey stakes no longer lined up, break time pink 05s with the original terrace edges, 05s, and after pulling back enough dead brush and loose debris, it became obvious that portions of the upper retaining section had gradually been treated break time .05s like shared access space, even though the original stone layout clearly showed the terraces belonged entirely to the elderly homeowner's property, break times 05s, and when I knocked on the nearby hillside house, an 84-year-old retired vineyard groundskeeper named Mr. Break time .5s, Walter Green slowly stepped outside with severe knee damage and chronic balance problems, breaks 05s. Explaining that after years of struggling to safely walk the steep stone stairs, he physically stopped maintaining the upper terraces because one fall, break time 05s could easily put him in the hospital, break time 05s, and according to Walter, the neighbor uphill began insisting the neglected sections were no longer actively maintained private space and started break time .05s is storing tools, bins, and landscaping materials near the upper retaining walls, while warning him not to touch anything there anymore, break time 05s, and every attempt Walter made to clear the terraces himself turned into arguments about shared hillside responsibility and accusations that he break time .05s disturbing retaining structures that supposedly benefited both properties, break time 05, so eventually he stopped climbing the upper levels altogether because the uneven stone, dead grass, break time 05s, and constant confrontations became too dangerous and exhausting for someone his age to handle alone, break time 05s. But what made everything worse was the county had already mailed him a 940 fire hazard notice after inspectors photographed the dry hillside. Break times 05 deputy vegetation during a seasonal wildfire prevention inspection. Break no 5s warning him that additional pool penalties could begin within 7 days if the dead grass and overgrowth were not cleared. Break 5. So I offered to clean the terraces for free before the county escalated the violations any further. Break times. And the moment I began exposing the original terrace edges and buried survey stakes, the uphill neighbor suddenly appeared near the retaining wall, break time 05s arguing that the upper sections had effectively become common hillside access because Walter abandoned them years ago, break time 05s. But the more overgrowth I removed, the clearer it became that the original stone layout had slowly been ignored while the neglected condition allowed break 05 someone else to gradually treat portions of the property like their own space, and honestly watching an elderly man quietly stare up at terraces he once was maintained for decades while someone argued he no longer deserved access, break time =5 them was frustrating because Walter was not careless or irresponsible. He was simply old, injured, break time pro 5s, physically unable to fight constant disputes over dangerous hillside terrain anymore, break time .05, so instead of backing away, I kept exposing the original boundaries until the retaining lines and buried markers became impossible to deny, break time 5s, and by the time the upper terrace edges were fully visible again, it was obvious how easily elderly homeowners can slowly lose control over difficult, break time .5 sections of their property once age mobility problems make regular maintenance impossible. So tell me honestly, should neglect caused by old age ever give someone else the right to start claiming parts of another person's property?